A built environment is a huge consumer of materials and energy. It's the very easiest place to begin because there is this codification of what is a green building.
LEED is a very important tool in changing how we think about design and construction. And it requires the entire team, the owner, all the designers, and the contractor, to consider many things that we didn't consider prior to LEED.
Depending upon which statistics you find most accurate, generally it's agreed that buildings consume somewhere between 40 and 48% of all global energy, roughly 40% of all virgin materials, but they also produce 40% of all CO2 on the planet and roughly 40% of all of our landfill waste in the country.
When we think about high-performance buildings, it's having a lower environmental impact and it's good for our economy. And it's creating a better place for the building users, so it becomes sustainable in a variety of ways.
30 Hudson is a 1.5 million square foot building. We will have almost 6,000 employees over the next couple of years. This is an early LEED building. It was one of the largest LEED certified buildings in the world.
We are an entrepreneurial firm, so when we look at why go green, it's got to make sense. It's got to make commercial sense.
We incorporated LEED standards in all our capital projects operating procedures. With the building of our new headquarters, we will be the largest owner of LEED certified buildings. We have committed to reduce our carbon emissions by 7% by the year 2012. We believe a healthy environment is the foundation for a sustainable, strong economy, and that in itself is a business case for doing the right thing as it relates to the environment.
Our whole company is focused on the fact that no longer can the environment and economic growth be at odds. And in fact, the only way to have economic growth is sustainable economic growth. And that business needs to take the lead.
My grandfather started the business here in St. Louis in 1918. We have been ranked by Engineering News-Record as the 55th largest contractor in the country.
This used to be a metal fabrication plant. It was built in the 1950s, and now it houses our headquarters, our international headquarters.
We reused as much of what we found here, but we paid special attention to the energy use, the recycling of the materials, the use of water, and other resources that are part of the building, and we tried to make it as friendly for the users as we could.
Facilities such as this, there's an integrated approach. 20% of the year here in the Midwest, we can run on natural ventilation, which means the window's open, we can turn off the HVAC system and run on free cooling mode.
The thing that makes it high performance is that all of those subsystems are working together at peak efficiency in order for the building itself to be the most efficient it can.
In this facility, 110,000 square feet, our utility costs are half of what they are in our old facility at 70,000 square feet.
That's going to pay dividends for a long time because it's reduced the costs. But it has more dividends in how it's perceived by the people we do business with. It also sent a great message to our own employees.
It isn't a matter of how much more is it going to cost. It's a matter of what's the best building I can get for the money that I have. It's a subtle difference, but it's an important one.
We are right in the mid-range of what a Class A structure in St. Louis would cost.
We call sustainability a leadership initiative. We don't call it an environmental initiative. We believe that the customers of the future, especially the discerning customers, will choose our products, not because they are environmental, but because it's a differentiator between products that aren't.
The University of Denver has been teaching environmental law and ethics for over a century. Several students came to me and a couple of other professors and said, "Are we going to build a green building?" And so they introduced us to the concept of LEED, got us in touch with the U.S. Green Building Council, got us in touch with some LEED architects.
As part of the traditional University of Denver aesthetic, they went with more massive buildings that have deep floor plates. One of the big daylighting features is a central atrium that brings light deep into the core of the building.
So LEED kept pushing further development and further depth of thought in terms of why we do what we do. But there were quite a few aspects that we really opened our eyes on in terms of saying there are things that we need to do better. It brought forward a lot of good ideas.
We're using 40% less energy every minute, every hour, every year, 39% less water.
That whole package made a tremendous amount of sense to people. And in the end of the day, we never have regretted it for a minute. It was one of the best things we've ever done.
It looks like any ordinary campus building. It's not this kind of innovative plane crash building that looks like the architects were really trying to break the mold here. It really is your traditional University of Denver aesthetic.
We believe it's one of the first buildings of its generation. It has a metabolic skin, which responds to environmental conditions on the exterior to basically pursue a low-energy cooling strategy for the building.
The Public Building Service is the landlord for the federal government. We manage over 350 million square feet of space to house over 1 million employees.
When you look at the building, we're pretty honest about our materials. San Francisco has the most ideal climate to be able to have natural ventilation. When we are cooling off the building to be ready for the next day, the operable windows open so that we can cool off the concrete structure in total. If you can build the tower floors narrow, they're 65 feet wide, you can have access to natural light for everyone.
The federal government's going to own and operate that building for at least 75 years. We've been able to show them concretely that they're saving upwards of $500,000 a year in energy costs. It's a huge savings to the taxpayer.
What's driving us is our fundamental mission to create superior workplaces for the federal worker at the best value for the taxpayer.
And in terms of setting a standard and sort of leading the way for others, whether it's renovation of our buildings or whether it's a new building construction incorporating green technology and LEED certified systems, the reality is we can drive the market.
In our whole career, we're going to produce 2 dozen, 3 dozen buildings, and we don't make that much effect on the world. But if it's seen as a prototype that spins off more kind of ideas like that, then you realize it actually has huge, huge potential.
It is one of the first publicly owned Platinum LEED certified buildings. You know, a lot of firsts here, and we push very, very far.
The department wanted to create a benchmark for all the state buildings. The most important issues were addressed early on. The first was putting it in a site that was already seriously degraded over selecting a new site at the edge of the city. And so looking at that site as a restorative gesture, how to bring back biodiversity and vitality, and seawater is a precious resource, capturing each drop of it and using it, reusing it, was a big part of our design goal going in.
We use that water to flush our toilets, and that's all we use that water for. We save about 900,000 gallons of water a year.
The building is elongated in an east-west direction, has great north and south exposure, which gives good potential for sun control.
The structure of the building became the light moderating device, so we could shade the glass when we had sun that would cause glare and heat and reflect the light deep within the space.
When we put all of the things together, we're able to save about 56% of our total energy, making the project the lowest operating cost for any state office building in Missouri.
We wanted to show the viability of using as many products as we possibly could from the state of Missouri.
This building, Lewis and Clark, has become the kind of national benchmark that you don't need to pay a premium.
Because everything we do is with bank loans and mortgages, it all needs a good return. And we have never found that by aiming towards the highest level of environmental and social responsibility that there has ever been a equity return hit. And in fact, what we're finding is higher occupancy rates and higher rents, actually, because we're building better communities this way.
Kennecott Land was set up in 2001. The business objective was to get value from the land holdings, and that's evolved into what we call a sort of a builder of enduring communities.
Within Kennecott Land, we have approximately 93,000 acres here in the Salt Lake market. At build-out, we would expect upwards of 200,000 homes to be constructed.
Roughly 50% of the homes that the U.S. will need by 2030 have not been built. So the way those are going to be built is going to make a very big difference for the U.S. and for the world.
When we started, we mandated Energy Star homes, for example, right at the beginning. We were one of the few communities at the time to do that. And most people thought we were pretty crazy. Really?
It's certainly going to make a very, very big difference in terms of air quality, in terms of land conservation, water conservation.
One homeowner isn't going to make that big of a difference in the global picture on what is happening with our use of energy. But lots of homeowners doing it can be quite powerful.
We're talking about now purchasing wind power. Kennecott is exploring having homes with solar panels on them. We like that. That's what we want to see. We'd like to see that direction go farther and farther.
So there's a very big shift going on, and businesses that can position themselves well, no matter what the product, are going to be favoured by consumers or regulators or communities, and that's good business sense in my view. You can't hire people under 30 nowadays if you're not built around a commitment to doing things the right way, whether you call it sustainability, green, whatever. And eventually what you're going to see, and you're seeing a little bit already, is access to capital.
It isn't necessarily driven based upon profit or shareholder value, although we do believe that long term those things are aspects of it. But we believe it's the right thing to do.
In the beginning, the builders perhaps were a little bit skeptical and didn't see the full value of sustainability. But for the past 18 months, Daybreak has been the fastest selling community in Utah.
We really are just getting started. For us, it's an imperative. It's an opportunity to give customers what they want. It's an opportunity for better efficiency and to save money, to be more effective in the way we do business, and to serve our customers and our communities better. And it's important to the world, I think, as we see what's happening across the world. We've got to do our part, and we're doing everything we can.
All right, here's the front of our beautiful school. 70% of the building material is actually recycled, so that's really cool.
There's a thought out there that high-performance buildings cost more money. We were handed budgets and we were mandated to stay within those budgets to get a high-performance building, and that's what we did.
This ice actually cools the air that runs through our school. We run it at night so that it uses the less peak time for electricity.
We have a moral imperative to be fiscally responsible, to educate the children for an ever-changing global economy and looking beyond the future.
The Sunny Boy device tells us exactly how much electricity these solar panels are giving us at this very moment.
It's a wonderful, wonderful building because everywhere you go, there is sunshine.
These humongo windows let a whole bunch of natural light come in.
It absolutely impacts the learning inside the classroom and just the general attitude of the students and the faculty.
That's my interpretation. We've only had 2 years of student data on how we perform on the state assessment, and our students are high performing. Whether they come to us gifted or whether it's been our facility that's helped them, it's going to be really hard to separate that out. So it is a very positive place to be.
The lights are controlled by 2 sensors in our classroom.
Taxpayers are thrilled because we haven't wasted their money.
We can also dim the lights.
We save more than $100,000 a year in utility costs, so that's hard to ignore.
It's not just the building, it's not just the brick and mortar. It's everything that goes on inside that building.
When you open the window, the sensor turns off the heating. And if you're really quiet, you can hear it when you shut the window.
We're saving money, these buildings are healthy for people. I wouldn't build buildings any other way. We really can't afford not to build buildings like this.
I think we're finally realizing that to be green just means to be human. And so now that we're finally, I think, making that sort of leap,